If you're looking to build or buy a PC at the moment, then you will have inevitably seen the incredibly high prices of RAM. We've entered a crisis that's become known as Ramageddon, with prices up by as much as 500%. This means higher prices on pre-built PCs and people outright failing to build their own. The issues are real. But you might ask, what is causing this? How long will it last? Is there light at the end of the tunnel? And if I'm looking to build, am I better off waiting for prices to come down? So let's answer those questions. Now, you've probably heard that this is driven by AI data centers. But what does that mean? Well, LLMs use RAM for a couple of key activities. Firstly, for the training of new models. That is dramatically sped up through the use of RAM because RAM is so much faster than a traditional SSD. The second and most pivotal point is for inference. That is when you have a lengthy conversation with an LLM model, it needs to be able to hold information to be able to refer back to for context. Every little point you make or anything it searches up during that conversation is held in memory. That means every time somebody asks ChatGPT to plan their holiday, that entire conversation needs to be held in a RAM stick for a short period of time. Now multiply that across the millions and millions of users every day and you start to understand why this is becoming a problem. As you're probably aware, the number of LLM users increases exponentially by the day. But that's not the only issue, and it's not why this keeps getting worse. It's also because of the increasing context windows of these models. Think of tokens as a number of words or pieces of information that the model can be aware of when it answers you. Go back to before the RAM crisis and a good token context window for a top-of-the-line model was about 200,000 tokens. Nowadays, the top models are pushing north of 1 million. That means much more memory is required. It's also really important to be aware that there's much more profit in selling RAM to big AI companies than it is to consumers. Now, they aren't actually using the exact same RAM sticks that we would. You won't find a DDR5 kit in an AI data center. They use something called high bandwidth memory, or HBM, which has much higher bandwidth, it's much faster, much more effective. The problem is that HBM is still a form of DRAM and it's competing for the same silicon wafers, factory space and resources that we rely on for the production of RAM sticks for our home PCs. The memory production companies are at capacity, and it gets worse. I'm afraid there are only 3 major companies currently producing RAM. You've got Micron, SK Hynix and Samsung. Micron has actually shut down Crucial, which is their consumer line of RAM. That means they're committing entirely to supplying towards these AI companies, and we can't get anything from them. That's a big chunk of the market gone in an instant, and it immediately creates a real supply and demand problem. Following this, SK Hynix announced that they have completely sold out their 2026 capacity, and it looks like things are going to get worse before it gets better. Now, reports do change by the day, but many press sources are citing further price increases of up to 100%. At this already high point, that is going to be very painful. There are plans for major increases to the amount of RAM manufacture in factories, but that's unlikely to land with consumers until 2028, 2027 at best. So if you're itching to build now, that could feel like a very long time away. But hold on, before you throw your keyboard out the window in rage, there are some rays of light shining through. Google has announced through a blog post something called Turbo Quant AI compression. This is a form of compression that aims to reduce the memory reliance of LLM models by up to 6 times. That could have a dramatic impact. Hopefully, the other AI leaders can learn from this following Google's steps and relieve some of the pressure on the market. If stock pricing is anything to go by, this is looking quite likely, as in the wake of this announcement, the big memory companies saw their stock prices fall by between 3 and 6%. That is quite substantial, but it doesn't mean that we're quite out of the woods yet. So here's what I would do. The most economical option at the moment is probably to focus on a build with older hardware that uses DDR4 memory. That is still at relatively reasonable prices, particularly if you buy it used. But if you are dead set on building or buying a top-of-the-line PC, then you might be better off biting the bullet on the best deal you can find. Prices in the short to medium term could still go up further, and what goes up doesn't always come down. Sometimes the market gets used to these higher prices. It will likely come down from the extremes, but nowhere near back to where it started. Consumers adjust their expectations and companies get used to that extra profit. So there you have it. Anyway, if you found that video useful, make sure you subscribe to Digital Trends. I've been Sam, and we'll see you next time.